All right. So today, my guest is Jess Weber. She is a curriculum architect and business partner at I Love Coaching. Now, as a coach, and when I hear those words, I love coaching, I just got to talk to that person, right? But Jess helps coaches build their business that, are structured, they're sellable, and built around who they actually are. Jess, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation because I don't think it's happening enough right now in the world.
Absolutely. And you and I were talking offline, and you said something that really intrigued me. And you were talking about building a business aligned with who you are. And,
hmm
and I truly believe in that, like, our identities and, we all have special and unique talents. So let's dive right into that. What does it actually mean to build a business that's aligned with who you are?
Thank you for asking this question. Truly, I believe that you have to know who you are and not carry the mantle or the playbook or the labels that are assigned to you or given to you by somebody else. So there is a little bit of introspection that has to happen, but I think that that does happen a lot when somebody steps into an entrepreneurial space and they are building a business. And so when you can understand who you are and how you show up in the world, what patterns emerge in your behaviors and the way that you like to do things, it can help you grow and scale your business more successfully a whole lot faster than trying to run somebody else's playbook or just inherit somebody else's style of operating.
Yeah, I love that. And I see that all the time, especially, obviously I coach real estate agents, and
hmm
I'll see real estate agents start, and, they go on YouTube or they hear something at the market center and they're like, that works. So that's what I got to do. Or I want a cold call, but really deep down, they hate it and they don't enjoy it. And then they wind
hmm
up being miserable. So why do you think so many people gravitate that way, especially maybe at the beginning of entrepreneurship?
That's another great question. You're really good at this.
I am a great coach, so I always
I
ask
mean,
questions.
no, I know that you didn't you win a Productively Coach of the Year award or something like that. So I
Yes.
mean I have respect for it. But I think a lot of people, when they first are transitioning into a new industry or building a business for the first time, they lack a lot of confidence. And when you lack confidence, you automatically have imposter syndrome show up. And so people will sit there and they'll look at somebody who's chapters ahead of them or books ahead of them doing the thing that they strive to do, and they're like, oh, well, I'll just copy them. They've already done the things. They might have left behind some evidence of their journey, whether that's a podcast, a YouTube channel, a book, whatever. And so they think, oh, I can just take what they did, learn from their mistakes and their successes, and go do it faster. But the problem is they don't try to emulate or learn from somebody who identically operates or shows up in the world like them. They just look at the most successful people and then they get frustrated because there's a lack of alignment between who that person is and who they are, because they're not building from their authentic self. And I mean, I'm guilty of it. I did it for years as a teacher, and I always kind of went against the grain when I was teaching, and I taught everything from toddlers to high school. I taught every subject except science because I don't dissect. And it was one of those things where I was always combating, the system, because I was like, the system doesn't fit what these kids need. Then I went into real estate and I did every role in the market center, in the brokerage, essentially except a recruiting one, because I told people I didn't like rejection. So I mean, I did know myself a little bit in these industries. And now I coach coaches and other business owners to build authentic businesses. And I think that was the key unlock for me, was figuring out that I didn't have to operate in somebody else's system. I could build my own. And giving myself that permission gave me that confidence and helped me get rid of a lot of that imposter syndrome I was feeling, because I wasn't trying to measure myself by somebody else's ruler.
Yeah. So imagine you took the role of recruiter, right? Oh, it pays X amount of dollars. It's going to be
Yeah.
rewarding. It's going to be all these things. Meanwhile, deep internally, you hate rejection, and recruiting, as we know, comes with lots and lots of rejection. But it's good money, right? Could you
Right.
imagine yourself in that role? What would have happened?
It would have been out of it even faster than the CFO role that I also took, telling them from the start that it was one of the lowest fits on my assessment, even though everything I had was a high fit. I just was like, I know that this is not going to be fun for me, but here's what I can do for you. If you don't hold me to that standard, if you let me build my own version of this and create my identity. I'll take on the title, but you need to understand I'm going to do this, then that. And I didn't even tell you this when we were talking offline, but my plan was fix our payment and commission system, then go fix our education system, and then keep going from there. And I actually had a whole plan laid out, and life got in the way. My son has a heart condition, and ended up I needed to step away from what was it wasn't a 9 to 5, it was more like an 8 to 8, and be a
Yeah.
mom and be present first. And that's what made me pivot everything. But at the same time, I tell people I didn't know that I needed that to happen in the moment. I was working 60, 80 hours a week, and I was miserable. And then now I work 20, 30 hours a week. I make significantly more money, and I'm happier, and I own and operate multiple businesses in that much smaller time frame because I built something on my strengths, on my passions, and I am leveraging who I am at a much higher level than trying to fit into the mold somewhere else. So
Yeah.
we're recording this episode on a Friday. Well, I took my kid out of his early childhood center so he doesn't go on Fridays, so I can spend the day with him. He's upstairs napping right now, but I literally took him to lunch. We had lunch at my husband's work. We're going to go to the park this afternoon. And how cool is it to be present and be myself and yet make more money?
Yeah. Well, that's a great example of, living life by design.
Hmm.
And you're happy, and that's what matters most. So, what do you think about, that let's talk about a real estate agent. You said something about strengths, right? Everybody has
Hmm.
strengths. We all have weaknesses, strengths, et cetera. But, how much of alignment is about, strength values versus maybe just interest, or maybe I might enjoy that. Do you know what I mean? How I'm asking that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the core of who you are, because that's how you're going to consistently show up when things get difficult. So anchoring it on true value and authentic, self, and not just I can dabble here, is going to make or break you when the times are not the easiest. And it doesn't mean that the business has to match the person who's coming in the exact same time as you. Like, you two might have been in the real estate school together and tested together and joined a brokerage together. Y'all might have 100% different businesses. And that was the beautiful thing about being in a large brokerage leadership team for years, was I literally got to see and experience and work with thousands of agents across multiple states and multiple brokerages. And there are a lot of ways to run a successful real estate business. Not everybody has to build a 7th level, if you're, referencing the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, team. That's not everybody's dream or
Yeah.
ideal. And so understanding who you are at your core and then building everything in alignment with that is going to make it that much easier, so that you don't become one of the statistics of somebody who falls out of the business within 12 months, which is about 80% of the people who get licensed.
Yeah, and I also speak with every year, being the pro coach at two big brokerages here in the Philadelphia area. I speak to hundreds of different personality styles every year.
Mhm.
I want to kind of put you in a scenario. So there's we'll call them agent one. They come
Okay.
in and they are super analytical,
Mhm.
super analytical. And, they're sitting in a classroom and they hear all about networking event and all these things. Deep down inside, that's not them. Well, if you're sitting in front of that person, that super analytical person, what they're straight. They're probably dreaming about Excel spreadsheets and numbers.
Yeah.
As a coach, where would you guide?
I would guide them to find that group of people that they can speak to and serve at a
Yeah.
higher level. Because there are people who are buying and selling houses, whether it's a single family, whether it's an investor, whether, it doesn't really matter. You can find a niche inside of real estate that fits who
Yep.
you are. And so that's why we teach real estate agents to also interview clients and have clients interview them to find alignment. It is not about getting every single person that calls you. It's about serving the right people, because then when the service is a much higher level, because there is alignment, it snowballs into more referrals. My gosh, agent one is the most detailed person I have ever met. They gave me a spreadsheet. They gave me a breakdown. I knew to the dollar how much I was going to make, how much was going to, down payment versus commission versus this. It was the coolest thing thing ever. They're going to refer people if they're working with the right agent. But if they're working with agent two, who is flighty, ADHD, super personable, the head of every networking committee out there, that might not fit them. And so they're not going to be likely to refer them. And so it is not about agent one mimicking agent two. It's about agent one leaning in and building a business around themselves.
Yeah, I love that. And agent one, I love how we're calling him agent one, but agent one, that super analytical person that there's no, and I always tell people when I meet them, I'm like, there's no shame in who you are and the way you think, but you have to play up to your strengths. And I believe that super analytical person, like you mentioned, would be really good with investors. They would thrive as a commercial real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I wouldn't thrive as no commercial real estate agent. I'm a driver. I'm go, go, go. Like I don't eat,
Right.
breathe, and sleep numbers like that.
Yeah.
So that's not my strength, but I'm good at certain things. And yeah, so I love that. So so at what moment, and you have a lot of experience in this area with the brand and, aligning
Mm-hmm.
them up with their personality. At what moment do you usually see like the person say, this is not working? Or have you been in those scenarios?
I've seen it a lot, whether it's real estate or anything else. And it usually comes down to when they have convinced themselves the activity that they're doing or the brand identity that they're taking on, they convince it's the right one, but it's not actually the core of who they are because they haven't done the work internally first. So that's the operating through somebody else's label or playbook. And I mean, I did it myself. I came out of real estate and stepped into the coaching space, and I had always been the second in command, operations integrator, whatever language you want to use there. I've been a COO, I've been a CFO. And so I immediately, when I stepped into coaching, started building a brand around operations. Had website. Literally, I laugh. I keep it on my desk as a reminder. A friend made me coasters with merch. And like 6 months in, I was like, my husband goes, "You did what?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did. I built this whole thing, like the website." He's like, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." He goes, "Do you even like that?" And I was like, "Shoot,
No,
no, I
no.
don't." And I felt like I was convincing people rather than it being a natural, like, "Oh my gosh, that is so cool." And so that to me right there was a great indicator of the fact that I had built something incorrectly or out of alignment with myself. And so now I have an entire different brand and it's all big ideas made simple for me personally, because I love helping people take all these big vision that they have and create a clear path to an outcome. And it's not about, negating the fact that they may be ADHD. Heck, I am. It's not about the fact that they have to do something a certain way, but it's about helping them find their next right move instead of making all the moves. And so I've leveraged my superpower and built something in that lane rather than taking on this identity that was given to me by all of the other industries and roles I had been in previously. And so I had to fail first and fail forward, but I used that to then help me figure out where I actually needed to be. And all of that came through just kind of auditing, well, everything I've done in the past, what was the pattern inside of it rather than the label of it? And that made all the difference in the world.
Love that. So you mentioned the word playbook, and
Mm-hmm.
there's lots of winning playbooks out there. So why does following somebody else's playbook fail, even when the playbook itself is proven?
Because again, the playbook might not be written for your operating style.
Mm.
And, I believe that you can read a bunch of playbooks, absorb, learn from them, and take pieces of them. But to me, no playbook should be 100% checklist. I'm going to knock off everything one at a time in the order that it's written, because it wasn't likely written for you. It was written on behalf of somebody else telling you what they did to give you perspective, but not the exact path.
Yeah. So what do you think gets in the way of people writing their own playbook? Is it fear, lack of clarity, something else?
I would say you hit the nail on the head earlier with the word driver. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people who step into entrepreneurship because they haven't fit the mold somewhere else. They have an idea, they have a passion for something, and they want to go fast and see results. And the language of slow down to speed up is something that I believe wholeheartedly in, but it's a very hard thing to do when you
Mhm.
have somebody driven, motivated, big vision. And so a great example of this is my business partner at I Love Coaching. He founded it in 2019, but it didn't become what it is today until 2024. And it took me almost a year and a half of slowing him down to then reposition the entire company and the way that it presented itself to the public and what it offered to then become where it is today. And now, like, he and I had a meeting this morning. He goes, "Oh my gosh, I just love this so much." He didn't say that when we
Well, look at
first
that.
met.
You two, that's a perfect example. Like you two it sounds like you're counterbalancing each other
Yes.
in a good way.
Yes.
Is he a driver?
Yes,
Yeah.
he is the biggest visionary that I've met. And when I first met him, he had about 4 verticals going inside the I Love Coaching umbrella, trying to like create multiple streams of income for this one entity. And then he had like 12 more ideas he wanted to add in the next 12 months. And I just looked at him and I was like, none of these are working. And so it wasn't until we sat down and literally I had to get inside his business. I had to look at every single thing, where every penny was going, every system that existed. And I joke, I tell people my brain operates kind of Rain Man-ish. Like, I'm like, give me your pile of Lego, all the mess, and I will build you the manual to create whatever you want out of Lego. Like, I can write the blueprint for you. I don't want to build it. Like, that doesn't light me up inside, but figuring out the solution to build, I love.
Yeah.
And so we had a great partnership in that of, he hired me as an integrator and an operator, and now I'm his partner in all of this because of the fact that I was able to say, hey, your vision is to change and serve 100 million lives. Everything that you're trying to do right now is not going to scale to that. It's not about having 100 million coaches. Like, that's not it at all. His passion is just helping people make an impact through their unique experience. And
Yeah.
before, he was trying to build what felt like a brokerage for coaches. And he wanted to have all these different verticals like lead gen and media and all this stuff. And I was like, none of that is scalable to 100 million lives served. And so we wrote a totally new blueprint. We built a membership that is infinitely scalable. And we took away all of that stuff that was unnecessary to hit the vision. And so I think, and truly it was a slow down to speed up. So it was cut out all of that. Like, you can have a parking lot for all your ideas. Keep writing down your ideas. Don't ignore them. But again, having the consistency of, is this in alignment with the vision? And having that filter of like, who are you? What do you want? And what is the next one right thing we should be focused on? Not all the ideas. Change the game for that business. And then again, allowed me to translate that into every other business that I serve and coach with. So it's a
Yeah.
really powerful thing that is very hard to get most entrepreneurs to do. Slow down to speed up.
Yeah. And, you talked a little bit about failure and, it sounds like the
Yeah.
company was going, trying to serve many different people.
Mm-hmm.
And this is right on par with what exactly we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So when somebody builds from who they are now,
Mm-hmm.
how does that change the offer they put out in the world? And you just kind of answered it, but thinking, maybe outside of your company, just think of
Yeah.
maybe a real estate agent for a second.
Sure.
How does that change the offer they put out in the world?
Well, it makes it way easier because you're speaking from experience, not what you are projecting or believing what somebody else wants or needs. And so it allows you to connect with potential clients significantly faster and easier and more authentically. A great example of this is I'm sitting here thinking about a half dozen different real estate agents that I know that were all successful in my market while I was there. And they're still all active, but each one had a drastically different business. So there was one guy who built his entire business on a 300-person database. The second it got to 301, he took the lowest, engaged person out. So he had a ranking system and all of that, but he focused 100% on intentional relationships with 300 people and had roughly a $20 million business, with our average price point in Missouri being about 350. That's a pretty decent sized business. And he only worked a few hours each day so that he could be in his garage by 7 p.m. every night with a cigar and a glass of whiskey. And he worked 4 days a week. And he loved every piece of it. So that playbook didn't work for the luxury agent that worked in the top dollar area in our market. And she built an entire business around shopping in the luxury stores and meeting the wives and then building relationships with them and then selling their properties, and built a luxury business around shopping. Totally different playbooks. Neither of those follows the MREA 7-level team thing, because neither of them had a team because they didn't need it. They built something that aligned with exactly who they were in the moment, and it fit what they wanted for themselves, and that's all they needed.
Yeah.
And that's why I love real estate, because it can work for the teachers. It can work for the, the numbers people who love, commercial. It can work for so many different people. And you and I have probably both heard this through Phil Jones when he's spoken at like Keller Williams events and other real estate industry events. He says that, you need to be a specialist, not a generalist.
Mhm.
And to me, that's part of what this is you can be the biggest specialist of yourself. Nobody else can specialize in you more. And when you show up that way, it's going to help you connect with the right people that are also like you or have interests like you. And it makes that connection point that much easier than just trying to be like, yeah, I'll serve anybody. I'll help somebody with a rental and a luxury and a commercial and a blah, blah, blah. Nobody's ever going to think of you or call you because they don't know what you do.
Well, they're confused.
Yeah,
It's like, hello, my name is Bill, and I specialize in rentals and commercial real estate and listings and buyers and first-time home
hmm,
buyers and right.
right.
And I heard this statement recently where when you try to talk to everybody, you're actually talking to nobody. So,
Correct.
yep.
Yeah, we also say it, confused consumers don't buy. And so that's a huge part of this as well. Like my mom was a liver transplant patient 10 years ago, doing well and all the things now, but like I would never call a nurse practitioner for my mom's liver transplant questions. I would
Right.
call the liver transplant office, coordinator, team, doctor, surgeon, whatever. And so it's the same thing in business. You need to be a specialist in your niche, in your industry. And just like the fear of niching down is what causes so many people to fail. And the power in niching down is where you become known for something and you become the first person people think of for that thing. So niching is wildly powerful, and you don't need like the agent I was talking about with the cigar and whiskey. You don't need a 3 million person database. He had 300 and did a
300.
$20 million
Yeah.
business. Like
Love that.
it is such a cool thing when you figure out exactly who you are and how you want to build this thing, and then you lean 100% into only that and don't throw spaghetti at walls and get distracted by other things.
Yeah. So let's fast forward.
Yeah.
So I found my niche. I
Hmm.
found, my values align with my business plan, and I found that fully aligned business with who I am as a person. As a coach, what are some of the signs you see?
I would say that there's joy in what they're
Mm.
doing, and they
A
don't feel
smile,
like it's a, yeah, I
maybe a
don't feel like
smile
it's a
here and there.
job anymore. It's not work. It's fun. It's, you're excited to wake up, you don't dread it, and you don't sit there and live by a time blocked calendar. Like, and I know that sounds a little contrarian. I don't
Hmm.
believe in time management. I believe time is something you protect, not something you manage. And so I do have time blocks on my calendar, but I don't believe that time blocking the same thing all day every day is the way to have success in a business. And because again,
Stop.
if you're
Stop
building
right
it
there.
around you,
Stop right there. Stop right there. You are
oh no,
you
did
are
I
the
break
first
you?
person. No, you're the first person that actually agrees with me on this. And
Oh,
I
yes.
agree time block, but I don't believe in time, and I coach a lot of real estate agents, and ask what's your challenge time blocking. I always push back on that because it's not time blocking for me, it's priorities. You're having trouble
Correct.
with priorities. So
Correct.
I had to stop you because
Oh
that was
no.
groundbreaking news
No,
right there.
you just made my day, because I have an entire keynote on how time is the most valuable asset we have and how everything else should be built around protecting time. So
Yeah.
I love it when I find like-minded humans, because I do feel like I'm the black sheep of it. But again, if you know who you are, like my calendar starts with my family time, my bookends of the day. My kid is on my time block in the morning, and nothing gets scheduled until he is out the door at school. And I will
Yeah.
never change that. Same thing with pickup time. So I have a narrower window that I can schedule everything else in terms of priorities that align with my goals inside those bookends of my day. And
Yeah.
so I genuinely cannot stand when somebody's like, "Oh yeah, I have a 3-hour time block 5 days a week for lead generation for my business." And I'm like, "Do you love lead generation enough to do 15 hours a week?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Then why is it on your
Why is it
calendar?"
there? This the same with the agent that, puts everything in the calendar but then never executes. So
Or
is it in
uses the
time?
calendar as a to-do list. That
Yeah.
really ticks me off. Don't get me
Only thing that
started
goes
there.
Only thing that goes to my calendar is my appointments, my
Correct.
family time, my personal stuff like that. That's it. Love that. So good. So we figured that part out. Now, let me ask you this. So I finally found that business that I align with,
Mhm.
the marketing, all those things. What next?
Well, go do the thing. Like go live inside and do the business and build the business the way you want it. It's honestly time on task over time, and that's it. It doesn't need to be complicated. If you're complicating it, then there's probably something that's off. And so systems is just an acronym for save yourself time, energy, or money. Build a system around all the things that align with everything you've figured out, and then go keep doing the things in the most efficient and effective way you can so you don't spend as much time doing them, but they continue to grow in the direction that you've defined that you want to grow in.
And I hear the word system all the time. It's a word that gets thrown around very loose. Systems, models,
Mm-hmm.
systems. I want you to really simplify that, and we don't have to go really deep into it. But let's just say I'm a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
What is one system? Tell me one system. It could be anything that I could
Oh,
systematize that'll save time.
a great example of this is, let's say you're focused on social media as a growth mechanism and building out like your YouTube to prove that you're a local real estate expert in your neighborhood. Not anything bigger, just like your
Mhm.
neighborhood. So you do a 5-minute intro with a business owner, with an opportunity, you review a park, whatever inside your area. You could turn the transcript of the video into a blog post or a newsletter with AI very quickly every week, and then you're putting it out there in multiple facets so more people can find you faster. That could be a very consistent thing that you do, and that becomes a system. So to me, the word system, like I said, it's an acronym for save yourself time, energy, and money, because anything you do more than once becomes a system. But another word for it is a framework. What is the way that you operate inside this thing? What is the thing that you do repeatedly? And anytime that you can document it or create something that helps you do it more efficiently, the better off you are. So it could be that you've got a document that's just the steps written down. It could be that you've built an AI skill. I don't care what it is, because again, you have to build the system in the way that works for your brain and the way that you operate. So if you're a Google Tools junkie like me, you're going to use something different than somebody who is like analog paper based. And that's okay, as long as you're creating consistency for yourself to make it easier and spend less time doing it the next time you do it.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So what you just said was a system could be a checklist,
Mm-hmm.
some things that you're doing over and over. A system could be something as simple as AI and replicating that every week. I
Yep.
love that, and I love that you're actually one of the first people to kind of break that down with me because I hear that in the K, and it's great. I have systems, right? But my systems might not work for the next person. But I forget what exactly I heard recently, where I heard it. But if you're hiring somebody or you're going to work with somebody, your systems can't be up here because they can't read it. I love that.
Yeah.
For the person that is watching this and
Mm-hmm.
they might be thinking, I haven't found a system or a model or a business that aligned with me yet. Walk me through one, two, maybe three first steps that they can do so they can really get started to live their life the way they want to.
It would take the time that it takes you, whether you're writing it down on a piece of paper with a journal or in AI and talking to it, I don't care, or your notes app on your phone. Sit down and go figure out your patterns and go figure out who you want to be moving forward, not who you've been. You can
Mm.
review who you've been, but again, it's not about title or industry. It's about patterns of behavior. What did you love? What did you dislike? Where did you find joy? Where did you feel drained? And when you can audit that and understand how you operate, then you can start to make strategic decisions. You can go read the right playbooks and learn the right tools, modify the right systems for yourself once you know where you're starting. So I would say, I would pause whatever you're doing, like the framework that I teach in my keynote. It's called the BEAT method. You break, you pause, you audit and examine, and then you just make a tweak or a tune. And it's really that simple. So break, examine, audit, and tune is BEAT. And so I'd go take a beat. Just slow down to speed up.
Love that. Awesome. Jess, this was an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, there was a lot of gold that was dropped in this today. Comment below. What is one thing you took away or would like to implement in your business? Jess, thanks for having you on. Really appreciate it. And we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Thank you.